Yes. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Undocumented Truth, the show where we break down real life challenges and provide you with those great practical solutions. I'm your host, Manny, and today with me in the studio, I have my co host, Lady D, Benjamin, and our honorable guest, Miss Melanie. Today, we are going to be diving into one really big controversial topic that has taken over the media lately. Should we have more women in leadership? We are going to do our best to answer that question, and we are looking for your responses in the comments. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, before I even get started to ask you guys some questions, let's set the ground for the premise of the question, which I think it's a little bit of a controversial topic, but I know you guys are going to have a lot to say about it. Do you guys agree with me or with the media that there are less women in leadership roles than should be?
We do. I do personally.
Most definitely.
I do most definitely. Based on well,
I do. I do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean, I like to hear why. Why so? You all seem to agree that there are less women, but why?
I think because they're not qualified.
Okay. Right.
That is interesting coming from a lady,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Okay.
I think probably because of fear. They are afraid.
Because of fear.
Yeah, they're afraid to dare to get into leadership positions.
Well, yes, I know we are going to dive really deep to kind of examine the reasons why. Are we agreeing that, I'm assuming we are all agreeing that we have fewer women in leadership roles than we should have.
Yeah.
Yep.
Um,
The
and
data is there to show that there is 30% less women in executive positions, which means for every 100 men that make it to C-suite or executive positions, you have 81 women that make it to the bottom level. I mean, not even VP or SVP, but below that level. So
okay, well, here in the US, when you look at college students, 52% are women.
okay.
And when you look at entry level jobs, there are more women entering into the workforce than men, actually. When I saw the statistics, they threw me back a little bit, but you know. So I started thinking if there are more women going to school than men, there are more women graduating from school than men, there are more women entering the workforce than men. What happens? It looks like at a certain level in the workplace, it looks like at certain level in the workplace, the women start to either remain stagnant and there's no more growth. The fewer men that got in seem to continue to grow to the higher leadership roles than the women. So, well, the natural progression of the conversation will just be for us to look at the reasons why. Why do you guys think that these women get stuck at like entry to mid levels, but never really break the barrier to the leadership positions in various companies that they work at?
I'll go first. I think women have a lot on their plate. Like women are more more so the ones that are there to take care of the kids. Like as women get into their careers, they also that's around the same age they also start getting married and having kids, and they're left with the burden of taking care of their kids, taking care of their husbands. So career progression turns to being not given the attention that needs to be given. So they end up not being qualified to walk up the ladder of getting that promotion to being leaders in whatever career field they are in.
I will have a follow up to that, but I mean, let me hear from the other panelists.
Yes, I mean the not qualified part of it, I beg to differ, but my opinion is it's you have the societal restrictions and the cultural limitations that have been set in our minds growing up as young women, and you also have standards that were set up by culture as what is expected of someone to be at at an executive level. For example, you have to be that immediate decision maker, no time for thinking, no time to analyze. Let's take the risk, take the bull by its horn and see what happens in the front. If we fall, we fall. But women tend to be more rational and set back on, I need to see where I'm taking this company, this business, because so many lives and families depend. So they tend to take a step back on that immediate action, or that's why
Yeah,
they
I think
This point,
yes,
women are slower in taking certain
Decisions.
decisions than men,
Mhm.
which is I can see how um, that will make the board of a company hesitate to name a woman
Mhm.
because sometimes a fast decision might mean life or death for a company or for a country, depending on what leadership role we are talking about.
Mhm.
But I have a question, a follow up for both of you, but I'd like to hear from Ben before we proceed.
Yeah, what I'm trying to say is that women at times they are very, very self-restrictive. That they restrict themselves from, doing a lot of things. Not that they can, yes, not that they can do it, but they tend to think that uh if make a mistake, what happens to me?
I think they
They,
are
I
scared
mean,
of failure.
they have a mirror. They look at themselves in a mirror a lot more than men, and probably too their peers. They're afraid of their peers. What would they say about me if I do this or do that? So that's what I think is putting women backward.
Okay. On the follow up with you, uh, Melanie, you said women kind of there are cultural
limitations.
limitations that hold women back from getting into leadership roles, and um, women are hesitant when it comes to making decisions. All right, if we agree that women have these tendencies, is it not just right for us to not let women get in leadership roles because they are going to be slow in decision making? And like I said earlier, if your decision is a life or death and you're hesitant, by the time you make a decision, maybe it's disaster time already, and the decision will be useless at that point.
I mean, I see what point you're trying to make there, but to clarify,
Mhm.
when you say the hesitation shouldn't be based on some preconceived notions about women, right? I did make that point, yes. But we are changing. Society is changing. The way the mind is set now is shifting.
Mhm.
The young girl today no longer sees herself as a woman that is, they don't even, let's put the woman, the gender thing on the side. They're like, I'm a citizen of this country. I am studying to add value to my economy, to my society.
Mhm.
What are the opportunities given to me
Mhm.
compared to the boy child?
Mhm.
How can I make the most of this and shoot? So they're no longer thinking at 25 I need to be married.
Mhm.
The mindset, the cultural limitations are starting to shift.
Yeah.
The young girl is no longer looking at, I'm meant for the home, the children,
Yeah.
now
I think let's talk about the opportunities that are there, not
yes.
given, because opportunities are
Yes,
not given.
Ben is
Yes.
right. If you're
Mhm.
talking or if you're waiting for someone to give you the opportunities, I think you should apply the same reasoning to men. Are men waiting for
Yeah.
anyone to give them the
What are the, yeah.
opportunity? Men go out there and take these opportunities.
Yes.
That's
Grab
why they are the
those
leaders.
opportunities
So,
by the horn.
yeah, Miss D, you made a very interesting point when you said the women are not qualified.
Yes.
If the women are getting into school more than the men and getting entry level jobs more than the men,
Yes.
how do you then explain the part where you say they are less qualified?
Well, they're less qualified because, yes, they'll go and get a bachelor's degree, they'll go and get a job, but that job, they're comfortable with just being an ordinary employee, not a C level or an executive employee, because they want to have that time. They want to limit traveling. They want to be home for their kids. They want to look after their kids and be able to take care of the kids that they're also raising as they're starting their careers. So they don't get to a level where they are qualified, whether it's in them being managers and then from managers going to executive levels. They try to like
Just to clarify,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm not cutting you short, but when you say qualified,
Yeah.
what exactly do you mean?
The
Do you mean
criteria.
like a
What do you mean
bachelor's,
by
a
the
master's,
criteria?
PhD?
Or maybe the
Do you mean
strategic
work
decision-making
experience?
abilities, or
Do you mean taking leadership courses?
Or
What
decision-
exactly
yeah.
is
Yes.
your reference to being
qualified means, for example, a lot of them will go and get their bachelor's, right?
Mhm.
That's education.
standard.
For them.
Yeah.
That's a standard. But then they don't progress to getting the master's. Even the ones that get to the master's, they don't want to go in and take even leadership courses that can give them the ability to be leaders. Sometimes I would say they're not just qualified, but they're also don't have. They feel like it's best for them to be at the back, why they also serve as their serve their families at the front, because they don't want to have that give that full attention
Mhm.
to the work, like to the work,
So-
to their jobs.
I don't want to think that has nothing to do with their qualification. A lot of them, no, 1 minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of women, they're qualified to do whatever a man can do. Their problem is this: a lot of women still think that the man was made as a leader. So they don't want to get into the man's shoe. Because they think that if they fight to become the CEO, or they want to be maybe a president or whatever, a lot of women still believe that those rules, those leadership
for
rules,
men.
were made for men.
Okay,
That's is the problem. Yeah.
Believe. Let me add this example. Aside from believe that leadership is for men, we've seen women in leadership roles today when she can be the president of a company.
Mhm.
And when she calls for a board meeting,
Mhm.
the men take their time. They drag their feet. They're like, what does she have to tell us?
Mhm.
There is already this authoritarian thing about men that they feel, what I've observed.
Okay.
Don't ask me for data because I've not worked in several companies.
Yeah.
But I have seen myself having been in certain leadership roles when
Mhm.
you call on the men, let's talk decision, let me have my input.
Mhm.
They tend to underlook your own opinion
Wait,
as
hold
if
on.
it doesn't
Yeah.
have value.
Hold on.
Mhm.
When you say you be in a company as a female leader,
Yeah.
and you call for, let's say, a board meeting or
Yeah.
a contingency meeting, whatever the
Yeah.
case,
Mhm.
are you not the one that dictates what happened in that company?
You
Where you
dictate
say,
what
I need a
happens.
meeting tomorrow
You
at
think
10
this is
a.m.
the thing about respect and
Yeah.
authority. You
Mhm.
cannot force it. You can tell someone show up, they will show up, but showing up is not just being physically
Melanie?
present.
But
Melanie?
like being in a position
Mela-
where you have the power
Melanie?
to fire someone if they don't
I
show
think
The position.
1 moment.
Let me explain what I was trying to say.
Yeah. Mhm.
These female leaders
Mhm.
have men subordinate. And
Yeah.
when these men come to a board meeting,
Mhm.
the woman's opinion tends to be underlooked. It tends to be looked at as this is from a woman, not from the exec.
All right, wait,
So-
hold on.
and
I don't
wait.
want us to make this about men.
No, let me just.
Because what
I
I'm
was coming
reading
to the
from
point
your-
of why women shy away from these
Yeah.
positions.
And I think I will
Oh.
add that to the point
Okay.
of them not being qualified, because they're also supposed to have that
Confidence. I think if you
Confidence.
know you're
Yes.
qualified,
Yes.
your qualification will naturally bring down your confidence when
When
you're
you-
executing.
You are in a
your
place where
responsibility.
you're
Okay.
supposed
I
to
wanted
be
to,
giving
yes.
others.
Yes.
If they don't go with your others, you do something that
Yes, you
will
have to
make
take
them
necessary
successful.
action.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Good.
Leadership
Or,
today is not
let me
just,
just-
it's
let
not
me
just
just-
giving
let me
orders.
just-
It's having people that would work with you.
Let me
And
add
if you
something.
have people that would always argue, debate, defeat, and bring down everything that you're saying as not adding value to
But
them.
are you saying that these people are men? That the people that are
In most
hating you
cases,
or
I think.
yes.
disagreeing
I
with
think-
you are men?
I
Yes.
think- no,
Why do they
Melanie,
say
I
women
think
have to
I've-
put in 10 times
I've-
more effort
I've
in a
worked-
certain
I've-
role
I've-
compared to the man?
That's a saying,
I've
because
also-
maybe women are slower to get it than men. I'm
No,
not
it's
saying
not a
that,
saying.
but
You
I'm just
have-
saying.
If a woman makes a mistake at an executive level,
Mhm.
the criticism is way higher.
And from women at times.
Things I don't disagree.
women, not from
I
men.
don't disagree.
No, what
But
I'm-
if a man makes
I've
it,
worked in a
okay,
company.
Let
My
me
manager,
hear you, Ben.
yes, my
Yes,
manager
go
was a
ahead.
woman.
Mhm.
I've never seen a wonderful woman like that woman.
A wonderful
Is it
leader.
wonderful?
She was wonderful.
One woman, a wonderful leader.
She was a wonderful leader
Okay.
in the sense that she had authority.
yes.
When once he said the meeting starts at 10 o'clock,
Yes.
it was 10 o'clock.
Yes.
Everybody was there.
Yes.
If you come late, she doesn't accept you into the meeting.
Okay.
You stay out there. She had that authority. We respected her. So it
How
depends
long
on
has she been in
you.
the company for?
I don't know. I met her there and I
Hasn't
left
that,
when she
right?
was still there. Yeah.
The reason I asked that question, if you have 5 men who've been I'm going again to gender, who've been in a company for years and they feel they are qualified, they are meant for that position, and then a woman is stepped up to that position. Maybe she came from an outside hire. These people would tend to downplay her authority.
That's what I'm saying, that the problem is still with the woman.
Yes.
Because if you have
The men on the board.
if you have the authority,
Because
if you are made the
until
manager,
you prove
if you are
yourself,
made the
you have
manager
to work
today,
10 times
if you
more
are made the
and beat
CEO,
the numbers that other men before you have made, you have to beat those
All right.
numbers.
yeah,
in order
hold
for
on.
these men to
What I'm
respect
trying to say is, if you are made the manager today,
Yeah.
you have the working document, what you are supposed to do, your role, how you can sanction somebody. If you get there and you call for a meeting, or you want somebody to do something, and the person says no, it is you as the woman to assert that authority and punish that person.
No, showing up physically doesn't mean you're showing up to contribute, to participate, to respect what has been what will be instructed.
So you don't do anything if they don't do if they don't follow.
So the fear
Well,
is,
unfortunately, like you said, I think the term that you use, unqualified, is where I have an issue with. But in that aspect, the woman would tend to want to talk to this person and understand where is the problem.
What's
So
I think
qualifications too?
in that light, Melanie,
okay.
in that light, I would rather say that a woman is so compassionate, so loving. She doesn't want to sanction people. She has that pity.
That's
that
what companies strive more
Hold on.
culturally when
And
they
that
have
is part of not being qualified.
and that could
No.
become a weakness.
Hold
That
on,
could become
hold
a
on,
weakness.
guys,
Yeah.
hold on.
Uh-huh.
Somebody having empathy is not the same as not being able to lead.
qualified, yeah.
Leadership
put
comes
leaders
with skills
that
that
have
if you
empathy.
miss any, they would, like, let's say you
No.
go for an interview.
Right.
No, wait, you go for an interview. We all have a doctorate degree in whatever. They're not just gonna test your knowledge.
Right,
Yes.
they have to have a criteria to
Yeah.
eliminate some of the candidates,
Yes.
right? You have interviews where you have things like behavioral
Exactly.
interviews.
Why do
That
they
is
do a lot
really
of
a
behavioral
strategy
questions?
Yeah.
to eliminate some people out
Yeah.
of the pool.
Yeah.
No,
Because-
it's not in elimination from because you don't have, like, it's elimination because you don't have the qualified skill sets. Not just to
Hold on,
just
maybe you
keep
didn't.
people away.
Soft
you didn't
skills,
get- I
soft
do-
skills
I do
matter
have a
as
hard
much as.
time agreeing with Melanie on some of the points she's making.
Okay.
She is so pointed at blaming men, which I'm not
But
very.
Because I'm going to the system that set precedence for all
So,
of this.
Yeah.
But the point I'm trying to make is, sorry.
That's fine. Yeah.
When I talked about having I mean, if you break an interview into two parts where you have a technical interview for which is really about the job, you have a behavioral interview which is more about the person,
Yeah.
right? Like I was saying, when it comes to interviews, you might break an interview into two parts. And I'm not generalizing this, but I'm just using this for an example. I'm using this as an example in this particular case, right?
Yes.
You might have a technical interview that dives into the technicalities of the job itself, but you might also have a behavioral interview which tries to test your behavior to see how you're going to handle certain situations, how you're going to handle conflict,
Yes.
how you're going to handle this or that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So if you have two candidates that have the exact same qualification, the exact same work experience, what they will now use to eliminate you might be the behavioral
Yes.
part of the interview.
Yes.
There is a likelihood that you might meet two people that are exactly qualified, right? But my point here is, you were saying that a woman needs to work 10 times more to achieve the same level as a man,
Yeah.
which is something that I disagree with. And this is
Okay.
why. When you get into a company, they will normally have a criteria. They will have a policy for promotion. When it's time for promotion, maybe they look at longevity, maybe they look at performance, maybe they look at different criteria. And as a lady, they're not going to say, oh, she has everything and he has one less, but we are going to promote him just because it's a man. We are making this thing a gender fight, which is not. We should. I think we should face the problem head on and look at the real reasons why women don't get into this position. That being said, I have one point that I want to make, and I would like you guys to. I'd like to hear your reactions. I found statistics on LinkedIn that said 20% less women apply for leadership roles than men.
Okay.
20% less women
30 or 20.
apply for leadership roles than men. What this means is women naturally, 20% of women will naturally shy away from these jobs.
Yes.
Is that a men's problem?
It's
Or
not.
why is that?
Okay. I have my. Okay. But you
I'll go back to the same point. They know they're not qualified. They don't have all the skill
This has
sets
nothing to
that
do with
make-
qualifications.
that
Hold on,
make-
hold on. This
that-
has nothing to do with qualifications.
Again,
this is a job that
Mhm.
says we need a master's degree, for example.
Right?
The 20% of women that
academic
have a
doesn't even
master's
qualify a
degree
person
will
to
decide not to
occupy
apply
a
for that
role.
job.
Because
So it
it's
has
not
nothing to
about
do with
just having
qualification.
the master's degree. It's also about being able to take decisions, being able to make I mean, there are a lot more things that
That
comes
kind of
with
emotional
having
intelligence. Mhm.
of being in a leadership position, because again, you need to make decisions. You need to push people to even go against your will. Like Melanie was saying, if somebody is not doing their job, what can you do in that position? And they think and they go through their self and they see that, hey, am I the right person to do this kind of job, lead maybe 20 people or lead 100 people? They turn to not apply because they think they're not the right fit.
Well, let me take an example here that there's a journal, an economic journal that wrote about this, that state companies that were led by female execs, they made, was it 28% more profit? They were more, I'm going to
They
the
were more
economics.
profitable than companies
Yes.
led by men.
Yes.
Okay,
I'm going to
that's-
the economics
wait,
of it,
hold on.
just the economic
Hold on,
aspect,
hold
because
on,
we're
hold on,
looking at
Melanie.
leadership, right? Yeah.
Why that is a good point. That is not the point of this conversation. You're
No,
trying to
we're
say,
not
hold
saying
on,
they're
hold
not
on.
qualified.
I am not saying women are bad leaders.
We're trying to
The
say they're not
question is,
qualified.
that is a point that Ms. D made.
Yeah.
Yes.
But which we have expressed our opinions about that point.
Mhm.
Our point is, should we have more women? Which means we are agreeing that there are less women.
Yes.
What is it that we can do or the world can do so we can get more women into leadership roles? That's yes, you're trying to say women are even better leaders,
I'm trying to give
right?
the points why we should have, I'm trying to give the point why we should have more women, and also get to the point where we already have examples where women are better leaders, so we cannot be saying that they are not qualified or that they shy away or they're scared or whatever.
Okay, that's cool. Go on.
No, the fact
Go
that
on.
a lot of them are not qualified doesn't mean some are not very well qualified.
I agree
So
with
if
that.
if some are doing it,
Right.
now I'm gonna go back now to the fact the issue is not the qualification or nor the fear. It is those systems, and I always come to systems, and you're both gonna ask me what systems am I
Yes,
talking
and
about.
you have to tell us the
Thank
system.
you. Now the systems start culturally. It goes to the political system. It goes to the institutions. It goes to the home. From when a girl child grows up, she is prepared to take care of a home. She's not prepared to lead a business.
Okay.
So subconsciously, she knows I need to get these qualifications. I need to get this thing quick, because by this age, I mean, okay, I'm from Cameroon, Africa. A girl child who is already in her 20s, they start telling you, you need to get married. You're not going to hear, oh, you need to start a
Who
business.
is she gonna get married to?
No, I'm just trying to get to,
Right?
And
trying
who-
to get to the,
and
to
who
the
is-
cultural side of things.
And who is telling her? The man?
No, the parents, the family, we're coming. I'm going to culture, right? You
Okay.
can have your own points why this is happening,
Mhm.
but I'm going to culture. And it's not just happening in the Western culture or wherever, it's everywhere.
Right.
The girl child from birth is taught to get ready to take care of her family, nurture, build, and everything, but they are not teaching her to get ready to lead a team of employees, be an executive, start her business at
So
20.
does that come back to why they're
Who
not
is-
qualified in the first place?
No,
Yes.
They have the academic qualifications. They
Okay.
have the personality. If a woman can lead her home,
Mhm.
this home that has a male who is a CEO of a company who's making these critical
Melanie,
decisions
you
every
know,
day.
let me say this again. You know, I said man is an animal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nobody will wait for a woman to come and lead him.
Mhm.
You should take your
Or bull
responsibility.
by its horn,
Yeah.
yes.
Go there and get it.
Yes.
Don't think that as a man, I will say, okay, because she's a woman, I will allow her to go maybe
I
become
agree.
a manager. No.
I agree.
You
And
have
that's where
to
you make your
assert,
point.
yes, you have to assert your right
Yes.
and get it.
Yes.
Don't wait on men.
I
Don't
agree.
blame them.
I agree.
Because
Alright.
yeah.
Let me ask this question to everybody.
Yeah.
You have your company. You have two people you're interviewing. One is a woman, one is a man.
Mhm.
The woman did very well. The man did not do very well. Will
Barely,
you
yeah.
hire the man instead of the woman?
I will hire the candidate that did very well.
Yes.
All right. That being said, since everybody seems to disagree with Melanie, I think I found.
Whoa.
No.
Everybody, whoa, hold up.
No, we didn't
I found-
disagree with her.
I did find some
I
common.
like what you did there.
I did find some common ground with Melanie, and let me share it.
Okay.
So first of all, culturally, in my where I come from, we have chiefs who are like the local leaders. You guys know what a chief is, or fun, or a paramount chief, and I think by traditional norms, they cannot have a woman hold that position. I've never seen a woman hold a position
Thank
of a
you.
chief.
Let me differ with you, please.
Well,
Right.
let me finish.
Let me
This is your
differ
role
right there.
model.
No, before you continue, let me differ
Okay.
right there.
Mhm.
Do you know that in my own tradition, we have what we call the Maya, that is equal in status and everything like the chief.
She's a chief.
Why
To
is
be-
she not
to be-
called
to
chief?
be-
Let me
right
hold it.
away?
Let me hold
You
it.
call
Why
him
is she not-
status,
why is she
but
not
he's
called
not the
chief
chief.
right away?
That's why you are called Melanie and I'm called Benjamin. They don't call me Melanie.
No,
If
we know
this
what
is
a
the
chief.
status,
The chief
So,
doesn't mean
if
male.
this is the title and the status, that should be
Yeah,
it.
everybody should have that.
let me-
If we have
let-
the
let-
president
let
of
me-
the
let-
United States,
no, let me
whether
go
it's a
through.
woman or a man,
Let me-
it will be a president.
Thank you.
Let me go through.
I mean,
in other places, in
traditionally-
French, you are presidente.
Oh,
Exactly.
In French,
In
in Spanish, you are presidente and president. So it's different
Okay,
too.
that's translation.
So,
I need
you
to
know,
know.
I mean, you guys are
Then
taking
I
us down.
support
Hold
you.
on.
Thank you.
Hold on. You guys
So-
are taking
no.
us down a rabbit
No,
hole.
what I'm trying to say is that the Maya in my tradition,
Is
if
it-
there's no chief, she takes over responsibility.
You're
No.
actually making my
Hold on.
point.
What I'm saying, yeah, hold on.
You said when there is no
So
chief.
she's in second
Meaning
place
that
when there is no chief.
it's not that she's not second. She's equal in
No,
status. She's-
Ben, you said when there is no chief, she takes his
Because-
place. So the Maya is a placeholder waiting
We are
for the right
supporting
chief.
the
Okay,
argument
that
if there's no Maya, the chief takes over.
We're supporting the argument that
Well,
culturally,
If there's no chief, the Maya takes over.
Anyways, let us make some progress.
Okay.
That's what I heard.
Let me just finish. I'll
Yeah.
let you guys talk, but I just want to lay the
And
ground
Matthew,
so we can.
in the South region of Cameroon, the chiefs are ladies.
well, we're
A lot of
limiting
them.
ourselves to.
Okay.
So don't say that.
Yes.
We're limiting ourselves to.
There are exceptions to every rule. That's what I'm gonna say.
Sure.
But
To prove that
I
women
was
are
trying to
good
defend
leaders
you
too.
when it comes to the cultural
The
part.
cultural impact,
That
yes.
culture, and then again, in the home, we know men are the natural leaders
Breadwinner,
of the
yeah.
home. You will hear it even in Western conversations and Western gatherings.
Yeah.
The man is the head of the house. But then we expect women to lead when we don't give them the opportunity to learn leadership from
Even from their
onset
homes.
like the men. And let's even take this further to religion, right? We all, for those that are Christians who have read the Bible a lot,
Yeah.
you know, Eve was created from one rib of Adam. Adam has 24 ribs. So if they create somebody for just one of your rib, I would say a woman is just 1/24
Thank you.
of a man.
Thank you.
So a woman cannot necessarily be in leadership as the man. That is by nature. I know the world is trying to turn a lot of things upside down,
Right.
but leadership was meant for men.
So can I
Again, I asked the question and we all agree that if it's your company or if you have an interest in that company and you interview two people, a man and a woman, you will go for the person. If the woman did well, you would go for the person. Why do you think that people out there would do differently?
they do differently?
Biblically, let me answer
What
this
if,
question.
what if
Do
we
you-
choose to continue
Do
interviewing?
you know why God made man to sleep deep as almost dead before he took that rib out of him to create the woman?
We don't really know the why.
Well, while I know that I brought
I don't know.
religion, while I think I brought religion into this,
Uh-huh.
I would not like us to dive too much
Okay.
into
Too much into
religion.
it, yeah.
The reason
Yeah.
is this:
Mhm.
God is not here to defend himself.
Yeah, let's not
And we
pigeonhole
cannot be saying
ourselves.
thing. We should give God the
Yeah,
opportunity to
let's
come
not pigeonhole
and defend
ourselves.
himself.
But I
So
wanted to
I would
make
like
a
us
point,
to
though.
just sway away from religion
Yeah.
Yeah.
and talk about more practical stuff.
Okay, can
Okay.
I make a point on historically, right?
Right.
Back in the day, I'm not going to religion and I'm not going to a specific situation. When there were wars,
Mhm.
men had to lead the pack.
Mhm.
Why? Because of that physical
Mhm.
qualification,
Yeah.
that authoritarian qualification.
Mhm.
Right.
So because of that, the winner
Mhm.
automatically took over the position of leader.
As a leader.
So when you're growing up and always seeing that repeat itself,
Mhm.
automatically, subconsciously, oh,
You
the
think
male
that men are the ones that are supposed to lead, right?
So, Melody,
not supposed to lead.
Is it fear?
It's
that
not
is
fear,
making
it's-
them not to go for leadership position?
It's
because
fear.
Okay.
Yes, it's
then
fear.
they're not qualified.
No, that has nothing to do with qualification.
If you are
That has to-
qualified, you need to have the guts.
I guess Ms. D is defining qualification as also meaning that if you are stronger,
Mhm.
it means you're qualified physically. So we should not only look at qualification in terms of
Education.
I'm beginning to agree with Ms. D.
Well, if you're so the thing is, the definition of qualification that we know, it takes us to, does the person have the leadership qualities?
Yes.
Does the
Qualities,
person
yes.
have
Education?
the experience?
Uh-huh.
Does the person have the knowledge, the skill? Like, you have to put all these things together.
Exactly.
Do they have the people's ears and respect?
Mhm.
All those things
They
come
even have
into
the appealing
The
physical
likability
Oh my
kind of
God.
thing.
Yes. Because there have been times when men have been
You know,
face to face with women and they still they choose a woman.
before coming here, I watched a YouTube video
Yeah.
about a lady talking about the relationship between man and woman. And the lady said, men are like umbrellas. That if you go to a place like New York or Paris when it's raining, you need an umbrella. Whether it's a cheap umbrella or it's an expensive umbrella, you just get it
Mhm.
to cover the rain.
Mhm.
That's how men are. Men are
So-
those umbrellas, whether they are what kind of men. So a woman needs an umbrella at all costs.
But not, like
It's
going
raining.
back
And that
to
leadership,
leadership.
let me, yes,
what-
that
what-
umbrella,
how does that apply?
I'm coming.
Okay.
And that umbrella, it is the woman that carries that umbrella up. The woman has to carry that man up
Oh,
to
the
cover
woman
herself.
have to be supportive
Mhm.
That's
to
the
make the man
you're
a
going
good
back
leader.
to the whole system. The
So-
system, you're supporting the fact that the system sets up
Not the
precedents
system.
for the woman
The-
to always be second
So
place.
the woman is intrinsically a leader, but she doesn't know that. Her problem is that of, I don't want to say ignorance. She's fighting a battle with men, which is not
already
there.
lost.
Yes, it's not there. It's lost. A woman has the right, she has the power over man more than any other thing.
Right.
But she doesn't know that she has that power. She's looking at certain things
No, she
that are
knows.
not even palpable.
I disagree with that. She knows her, a woman, every woman knows her power over her men and men in this world.
Why are
Women
they
know
not
it.
leaders?
So where's the
There
problem?
there are fewer women in leadership position. Again, I'm going back to all of these things that were set up, right?
Right.
And unfortunately, the woman hasn't gathered the guts to play the game the way it is played. She hasn't gathered the guts. She feels like it's not worth it.
Mhm.
I'll tell you, if I have to bribe and steal and do all these things to get to the CEO position, I don't care for that.
Do men do that to get
Men
to
do
the-
it. I agree.
No,
Men
that's,
do that.
that's wrong. That's so wrong.
Men
I
do
don't
that.
even-
Leadership,
I think you should change
leadership-
that point.
No,
I-
I'm not
I-
changing the
I think
point.
it's wrong.
Leadership at
Men
some
don't
point.
drive their way
Leadership
to leadership. They don't.
No, I'm saying there are certain things.
Mhm.
Let me give you a quote there. There is a statistic that shows
Mhm.
companies with female leadership have experienced the least amount of corruption, bribery,
Mhm.
and all the other list of things that you 7% higher.
Okay.
Okay.
Uh,
There is data to back that up.
Melanie,
Yes.
that your data might be correct,
Mhm.
but if you take that data in terms proportionately,
Mhm.
it's not going to be correct because
Proportionately.
men are leaders of over 90% of the company.
Company.
Yes.
it's just but natural that
Yeah.
you are going to find more corruption in male-led companies because there are so many of them.
I don't disagree with that. If we're gonna argue as to why do we need to have more women in leadership roles, then we should argue with the points that make sense in terms of economically. What is the statistics showing? Of course, there's less women in leadership, so we can't compare in a very fair way. If there were 100 companies or 100,000 women and 100,000 men, then that would be a fair judgment. But there's more women.
We can do it in terms of the proportion. How many men versus women? We can do it in that way. We don't have the numbers, and I don't really want us to go that deep into the conversation. We can really agree for sure that there are fewer women in leadership than men. We have tried to examine some of the reasons. Why. But at the same time, we seem to I don't want us pointing the finger at men to say, because if we sit here and say men are the cause of why we don't have enough women in leadership, we are going the wrong direction.
Yeah, that is right. Men are doing their job. Women are supposed to do their own job to get to leadership.
When it comes to us finding the way forward, you force men to be on the defensive side. And trust me, that's not going to be helpful to women. So I don't want us to blame men because men are not the cause of why there are fewer women in leadership. We should rather, we talked about the societal cultural norms. Women are the child bearers. Women tend to spend more time at home with the kids than men.
That comes
So those are some of the points that I want us to look at. If we examine these points very well, I think our conclusion will be maybe we should pamper and encourage the men to step up and support the women at home. Spend more time with the kids also. We should go back and re-examine our cultural norms. Are they disadvantageous to women? Yes, they are. What can we do? We try to find common ground by asking these questions and being more objective. You guys remember we are the undocumented truth. So the things we are going to, a lot of things we are going to say here might not be documented, but these are experiences that we are sharing.
And another thing is, let me pivot back to what she said, that women are under or unqualified or The next question is, truly, should we just get women into this role because we want them there, or they're actually able to do their job?
I wouldn't do that.
No.
Yeah.
I will only hire you if you're qualified.
Yeah.
And if I didn't hire you, you were never qualified.
And that's the whole problem. Because a lot of women, as she said, when they go to school, they get at a certain point or a certain level, they tend to think that, okay, I think mine is enough. I need to get back home and
focus on making sure that the kids don't
making
go
a
astray,
family,
my family,
or
my
they start
husband
looking
don't
up
go
at some man somewhere to get married to and get fulfilled. Rather,
so what influences that? Culture.
Not culture.
What?
Some of them are just tired of going to school. They don't persevere.
What?
They want to get the easier way, kind of stuff like that.
I disagree with that. I completely disagree with that.
The point he's making is actually true.
I disagree with that.
It's actually true that
because women look up, while men look down. That's why it's. Hold on, let me come.
What does that mean?
What I'm saying is, if you look at most men, they can marry a woman who has virtually nothing. Down there, the woman is just struggling from a very, very poor background, kind of. But to see a woman that marries a man who has virtually nothing, it's virtually impossible. You understand what I mean? So women are always looking at where they can easily get help, where they can easily get help. Women love or like the easier way. And that's why they don't have that courage, that audacity to strain, to focus and, fight for something. They like it easy. That's what I'm trying to say.
Oh, I get it. I
get the point.
I disagree. You're using an is that an
analogy?
Yeah, that it has nothing to do with leadership.
What
I
think
it has to do with leadership, because if
The
you
woman in
don't,
leadership is a complete personality from the woman that
no,
is
if you think that you can always get it easy, you can always have it as easy as possible, you will not focus and fight for leadership.
No, I disagree with that point of
There
view.
is this saying that I've seen and heard a lot on social media that if Beyonce was working at a McDonald's, she still had a very high chance of getting married to Jay-Z. Let's flip that.
Yes.
Do you think that can ever happen?
Yeah.
Flipping it
Oh,
like,
flip it.
like Jay-Z was
No.
working at McDonald's.
Would
and
it happen?
Beyonce was
That would
working-
not happen.
So
That's the
I think
mentality of
that
a
is
woman.
That is
Yes.
the point he is making. I think that is the point he is making.
And
right?
that means
no,
women
leadership.
like it when it's easy. Like they don't like
Yeah.
stress.
To
They like
stress.
to just get
Easy.
things.
No, but
Get it.
excuse me.
Which
Soft.
means when they go in at entry level, they don't
Yeah.
even want to
Those are the simple, those easy levels.
Move up,
to
They-
move
right?
to the
Yes.
next level.
But
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. I see
Yeah.
your point
Yeah.
in a certain way,
Yeah.
to an extent.
Mhm.
I've seen women in roles get into a job same time as a fellow man, and once they start that job, the woman is trying to be really great at what she's doing here, but the man is trying to be quick to get to the next level.
Okay.
He's not really.
That is what you should be
Trying
doing when you
That's
get
what you
into
should
a
be doing
job.
as a woman too.
No, but this is because, like I said, I always say women are very thorough and very rational. They believe in our minds. Not, I don't want
Okay,
to generalize.
hold
The
on,
mindset is
hold on,
you
Melanie.
have to be
The point
great
you're
at
making,
this.
right?
Prove the numbers. Show that
Melanie.
this you can exceed, so you can make it to the next level. But
Wait,
the man is like, I don't really need to be that great here.
Let
Let
me
me
ask
do
you
the
a
best,
question.
what I need to do, and get there. Yeah,
The point you just made,
yeah.
how does it help women? How does it help us get more women into leadership? This thing you just-
I wasn't making
It's
the.
not gonna
I was
help.
talking
It's
based
not
on
the point. It's not working. That's why they've stayed at the bottom. If they
Because
keep
we-
trying to be perfect before they even try to,
I
go and
agree, and
apply
that's
for
why
leadership
today's
role,
young
they will
girl
stay in that
at the
same
bottom.
position for the next.
And that's
20
why
years.
today's young girls are no longer looking at, I need to be great here, do the best, prove to my leadership that I can beat the numbers. If this person made 10% when they were in this position, I'm about to make 25%. No, they're also getting aggressive now.
Well, I don't know how aggressive they are getting because the statistics I have tell quite a different story.
You're looking at statistics
let
from which generation? Those who
No,
are in
I'm
executive
looking at-
positions today are 50, 45 and 50,
hold on.
right?
Let me share some statistics from 2024.
Okay.
2% of women are inventors or startup. How do I say this? Only 2% of women
A founders of
founders
Startup
in
businesses.
Silicon Valley.
Okay.
Silicon Valley is the place where most billion-dollar companies in America get started. And if only 2%, women make up 50.9 or 50.5%
America
of
In
the
America.
population of the
Yes.
Yep.
And if only 2% of them
Yeah.
are founders in Silicon Valley, which is the most innovative place in the world,
There's something
tells you that-
wrong.
there is a problem when it comes to women and leadership.
Absolutely.
Number two, when we look at the Fortune 500, I think it's only 10% of the CEOs in the Fortune 500 are women.
Yeah, women,
Only
yeah.
10%, even
Yes.
though they make up more than half of the
Absolutely.
country.
Yes.
If you look at the history of this country, we are at our 47th president.
Yes.
None of them has ever been a woman. And it's only in recent years that we've had two women
Give it a
actually
shot.
hold the ticket as a
Right.
top candidate for a party.
Yeah.
And again, I will not blame women so much for that because I think the policies that were in place for a very long time even prevented women
From
from
voting.
casting their vote.
Okay, just go to
Okay.
the US Senate.
Right. In the Senate,
Yes.
out of 400 and...
Senate, there's a Senate,
Is
the upper house.
Well, I'll let
out
you
of a
if you
hun-
have
out-
some statistics.
Out of 100, only 25 are women.
Women.
Yes. Okay.
Go to
Congress.
the lower house.
Okay.
Out of 435,
Mhm.
just 125 are women.
I
So-
love how we're basing our data on a generation that grew up with a like a backwards mindset.
Mhm.
This generation that is in power in executive positions today is a generation that set up the rules that are ruling us today, that wrote the books that we're teaching our kids in schools today, that set up the policies and everything that we're living by today. It takes years to undo what was done 100 years, 50 years ago. Since the creation of mankind, everything has been said. You go to the Bible, most of the books are written by men. Women did write books. Did you know that?
In the Bible?
They wrote books,
You
but they
have,
were
you,
never
you have
published.
Esther. You have Esther, the book, and
Yeah,
they
so
did. Yeah.
let's look at the ones that were published, right? Out of the many women that wrote, look at the percentage that was published. So as a young girl, and my parents are telling me to read my Bible, believe in God, and I go every time I hear a man's voice. God is a man. Thank you. Every time I hear a voice, it's a man's
God has a son, no daughter.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Help me. Look, and then you go to school. Okay, no, I'm going step by step. I'm trying to come back to the point as to why women don't have this gut, why women are not in this
And that's
position.
the qualification that is needed.
That is not qualification. That has to do with the system that was
Like
that
it,
set.
SD.
No,
SD
that
is
has to
making a
do with the
great
system
point.
that set precedents for the woman's way of thinking and doing things. You go from religion, you come now to the culture. You're going from religion to the culture. You come in your culture. Your mom is telling you, your dad is telling you, you're almost 20, you need to get you a man. By the time they don't tell you you're almost 20, you need to
No,
start a
hold on,
business.
Melanie. You already made that point.
I made that point.
And this is
And
not
then
something.
our laws,
Hold on,
the laws
hold on,
that rule
hold
us
on.
were written by men.
This
And
is
then
not.
you're talking about the Senate.
This is not
When
something.
were women able to vote?
Hold
When
on,
could
hold
they-
on, guys.
Yes.
This is not something I thought I would ever say in a debate like this.
Okay.
Yeah.
You keep saying this thing about men or the system. The system, I believe, is made up of men and women. And even though I was trying to defend women a bit about
You don't
the
need
system,
to defend.
the
Just
point I
give
would
the
like
facts.
to no
Give
hold
the
on.
facts.
Listen.
Yeah.
The point I like to make is this: when you were saying it as if men created the system and all of it. When men were creating the system, where were women?
Okay.
When men were saying
Thank
that
you.
women cannot vote, why were the women not saying men cannot vote?
Okay.
Even though
Why
there were
can women
more
not
women than men.
riot?
That's like asking a child who grows. Let me take that's an example. I
Please.
don't want to go there. That's like telling somebody who is in an abusive, and I'm using that as an example. Okay, I'm not saying that as a situation here.
Okay.
That's like telling someone who is in an abusive relationship for 10, 20 years. Why did you wait that long to
Is
come
that
out?
not a good question?
Is
Is
that a
that not
good
a
question?
fair question to
It's
ask?
not a fair question.
It is.
It is.
It's not a fair no, it's not a
Oh
fair
my God.
question to ask a victim, because when you go into survivor mood, you're not looking at I need to speak up. You're looking at what do I need to do to survive in this situation today. You grew up in a society. I'm saying
Anyways.
from creation, from the religion that you're being indoctrinated with from childhood, the books you're reading, the voice you keep hearing are the voices of men.
I'm not
You
gonna.
go to school, the books you're studying are the voices of men.
So where the
To politics,
question
the
is,
laws are
where
the
were
voices of
women?
men.
When men were abusing
when men
them.
were doing that,
Oh my
Women
word!
are
Are you
lazy.
saying-
where were there?
No, I
Women
am saying
are
that
Women just
women are
work-
not. No, women are not lazy.
Women just got-
Physically,
Men were
when the
doing
men were
everything
fighting.
to go to move to the top, to be leaders. And
No,
women
no, no,
sat
no, no,
there
no, no, that's not the
watching and
reason.
men doing
Physically-
everything.
Okay,
Physically,
guys,
when men were
let's-
going out to war to fight for
let's
power,
cut,
for
let's
authority,
cut, let's cut.
women could not. They could
Let's
not do
cut.
the same physically.
You
So-
keep Melanie. You
Yes.
keep bringing us.
No, because you
down.
want to ignore the facts, and
No,
we want
I'm not
to.
ignoring
1 minute we're
anything.
bringing statistics. When we go to statistics, we should let's look at what
I
is
have
just
actually
society.
I have actually tried my best to be very fair
Uh,
in this conversation,
Right.
but you keep pushing me to the wall and making me
Hit your head on the wall. Let's go.
You're forcing me to
Run
act like
into
I'm a
it.
man. I'm defending men. That's
Run
not
into the wall.
Yeah.
Run into the
My
wall.
point here
Let's go.
is, why do we have less women in leadership? And can we figure out how
A
to
way to get them
leadership.
into
I
leadership.
stated my
don't take
points.
us down the
Why?
rabbit hole about abusive relationships. There are men that get
You're
abused in
sticking to one. You're
relationships.
sticking to one.
And I
said,
believe
don't
it's a
stick on
fair
that
question that if
example.
you are in an abusive relationship, you should speak up.
No, that's victim
If you
blaming.
are in a
That's not-
company
no.
and you're being passed on when it's promotion time, you
Speak
should speak
up.
up.
Speak up.
Well,
You
I
can't
agree on
sit
that.
there and say because it's men, it's men, it's men. That doesn't help women
At all.
by blaming men. Because if men are really those empowered to promote people and you push them to the wall and make them defensive, no women are going to get in any leadership roles.
Absolutely.
we
Well, then
shouldn't do
that's
that.
where the
We
guts
should have
come
an
too.
open conversation where we really think that what a man can do, a woman can do even better.
Right.
I don't believe in that.
Way,
I don't
but
agree
that's
with
what
that.
people keep saying.
Mm-hmm.
And when you give women the opportunity, they take it, they destroy it.
Yep.
A few years back, we had something called a Me Too movement.
Okay.
I will tell you that movement did more harm to women than good.
Mm-hmm.
You know why? A lot of women took advantage of it and started lying on men. There are men that went to jail because a woman just came out and said he
was raped.
abused
Me.
me. Well,
Okay.
let's not use that word, but to say I was abused by this man. And without any investigation, without any further probing to figure out if it's the truth, the man's career was destroyed. Some of them,
put him in jail?
some of them might
Who
not have
judged
gone
them?
to jail,
Who judged
but they
them?
might have lost their careers.
Who judged
They might
them?
have lost everything.
Oh no, the women
Okay.
judged
So
him.
I think we live in a country of laws, and the law should apply whether it's a man or a woman. That being said, let us move to the final segment of our conversation tonight. I'd like us to talk about some of the things that need to be done to get more women in leadership roles.
Yeah.
And hopefully, Melanie's not going to say, let's kill all the men. Let's go.
Let's get rid of them. No, but the thing is, this is the thing, right? In the beginning, you said we're gonna come to the point where is the statistics show that we have more men than women in leadership role. We agreed on that
Yeah.
because the data is there.
Right.
And then we went to the why, and we're digging, and we went to the cultural reasons, and we went to the qualifications, and we went to the status quo, which is the system. And you all agree to disagree with me, but I'm sticking to what I know.
Yeah.
So then now we're going to what do we need to do?
Right.
Yes.
Let's change our mindset. Development starts in the mind. You can build skyscrapers, you can put cars and technology. If the people's minds are still what they were, you're not going to make any change.
Okay.
So start educating our children from home. Let the girl see that she has the same rights, the same opportunities as the boy, which means when you're sending your son to MIT, do what you need to do too for your daughter to qualify to get to MIT. The same effort that you're putting on your son. Let's give each other equal opportunities.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah, that's a very good point. But one thing that I wanted to add is this. Again, this is a cultural thing. So you guys should not really apply it across the board because it might not happen in some societies. Maybe it does. The point is this: as a father, as parents or fathers, you know, from the culture that I come from, men make most of the decisions in the household. So when it comes even to educating the kids, men would prefer to send their male kids to better schools. And better schools means they are going to come out with a better education. They are likely going to get better jobs than females. Their thinking behind that is, well, when my daughter grows up, she's going to go marry a man and move away
Who is already
to
made.
another family.
Right.
And so I would rather educate my son who is going to stay with me here and I benefit even after their education.
Yes.
Yep.
When it comes to inheritance as well, which I think when you have this inheritance can make you wealthy, and wealth can bring power, and wealth can bring leadership.
Right.
Men would rather leave their inheritance
To
to
their
their male
sons.
kids than their daughters.
Right.
So these are some of the things that society needs to change
Society.
to put women in, to give women a better
Equal
shot
opportunities.
at becoming leaders.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can go on and on and on with the taking care of kids at home and all the rest, but I like Ben and Miss Lady D to also share what they think can be done to give women a better opportunity.
Again, I'll go with women getting the right qualifications, whether it's education, whether it's getting those additional qualities that makes a better leader. I don't really know them, but I think the women are missing them. So it's all about education because for one, I wouldn't have a company and hire a woman instead of a man if that woman is not qualified. You need to be qualified before I hire you. So something is missing. And whatever is missing, they can learn it. It can be taught somewhere. They should go for it. And for men, and as far as being taking some of their time, I'll call upon the men to help their wives be supportive, be a supportive husband, so that your wife can have that opportunity to get the additional skill sets they need instead of them being burnt out from taking care of the kids and even the husband. Meanwhile, the husband is just the one that is shooting for the moon, going for all their education and everything that makes him a leader instead of him and the wife being leaders.
Yeah, fair enough. What I would say is, women should wake up.
Slumber.
Wake up
Yes,
from sleep.
sleeping.
Yes.
It's not a
They should
joke.
wake up, because no man will wait for the woman to come and meet me here and go above me. No. I am also fighting to take care of my family. I have a wife who is a woman. So I want to move ahead. If they want to move ahead, they should stop fighting an unseeable or intangible fight with men about probably equality or whatever. Just do it. Just be equal and work toward what you want.
Achieving your goals.
Don't stop telling me about Me Too movement or whatever here and there. It doesn't help. Go to school, get qualified, as you said, get a job, fight for it. If it means jumping 100 meters high, do it and get the job. That's what I would say.
Yeah, just do what it takes, right?
Yeah.
I know early on, Ben said women are always looking up and men are always looking down. I mean, if you think about the positions, you know.
I was gonna at one point, have you seen the girl child that gets raised by a female, a masculine figure alone? Most girls that are raised by just their fathers, they grow up with the same guts as a boy. She believes what this guy does, I can do it too. That will show you that difference, that imbalance, where it's coming from. So when the fathers are involved in raising the children, they contribute to that alpha part.
Wait,
Thank you.
Because we have the nurturing part.
hold on.
The
Was there a time when fathers were not involved in raising their female child?
I mean, if we're
Are you
talking about if we're talking about a society,
Still don't
So,
agree.
we want women,
I don't
those
agree.
mothers,
we
to
want
raise their kids
they
like
need
the
to have
fathers.
the,
Yeah,
we
I
need to
don't
have the
agree.
balance in the home, whereas the mother is teaching that nurturing side, the father is teaching that gut.
Well,
Have the gut.
I'll-
Face it.
well,
Let me just say
I'll-
this,
I'll
and
let
let me just say this,
the
and
viewers
maybe before we go,
make their
we
opinion.
close. Just
Right.
a
No,
brief
we're
statement.
not closing. I have a point to make.
Thank you.
But
When I'm with my wife at home and somebody knocks at the door, instead of her just going there to say, "Who is there?" she comes to me. There's somebody at the door. Can you go find out?
don't you enjoy that?
No, we're equal. Let her go there and face what is
if
happening.
if she goes there and get hurt? I would rather get
Oh.
hurt than send my wife to go get hurt.
Okay, when I go there, it's an opportunity. I get it.
Thank you. So that's a good point too.
Yeah.
But what I was gonna say is this, right? I think women spend a lot of time, like you said, man, trying to be equal to the man. Just be equal to the woman.
That's it.
Okay? Because when you see a man, and what everybody thinks about men is they are working so hard to provide for their family.
Yeah.
They are working so hard to take care of their family. And if you ask a man, why are you working so hard? He's gonna say, I have a family to take care of.
Right.
My wife, my
Women
children.
don't have that mentality.
Yes,
Exactly.
they
I'm
don't.
working so hard to take care of my husband.
Yeah.
I'm working so hard
They
to take care of my
don't.
family.
They're lazy.
Women need to build
They
that
need to grow up.
Mentality of also being
They're lazy.
fighters.
This is
They're
working
you
hard.
can argue all you want.
Yeah.
Yes.
But this is the society we live
Absolutely.
in. These are things that
Absolutely.
are happening every day.
Yeah.
They might not be documented.
So
We
these
have
women
to
just
bring them
woke
up
up
in
and
the
then they're just
undocumented
sitting
truth
on their
Yes.
and tell it
behind.
as it is.
As it is.
I
Okay?
disagree, but
I
I
would
agree to
say
disagree.
90% of women, they depend on their men.
Thank
And that
you.
is the reason why
Absolutely.
they're
And
lazy.
When you
Why?
see
They
a
don't
situation, hold on.
Why?
When you see a situation where the man is depending on the woman, they get kicked out in the street.
Yes.
Right away.
Fact.
Yes.
But again,
They abuse the man
this
like
has
never
been,
before.
This has been a great conversation. I
Yeah.
like the intellectual
Honesty.
contributions,
Oh, yes.
comments that you guys have made tonight. But again, a conversation like this cannot end without us giving a shout out to some of the great women leaders that we've had. So I'll just have each of you call the name of your greatest female leader.
Oh my God.
Let me start with you, Ben. It's hard to find.
No, it's not hard to.
It's hard to find.
No,
Oh, I see
no,
what you
Let me
did
tell
there.
you.
I see
No,
what you
it-
did
it-
there.
it
It is
Listen,
hard
Let me
to
tell
find.
you. You
Yeah.
guys just shout out the name of your favorite male leader.
My
Your favorite male leader that you know.
Well,
It's also hard to find.
well, I'll go with my dad.
Okay.
That's fine.
How about you?
Yeah.
Nobody here even said their
Shout
mom.
out to
It's
my
okay.
dad.
Mhm.
Well, I have two for me.
Go
When you
ahead.
talked about female, my mom, and then I believe the Sierra Leonean president, Helen.
Salif.
No, Helen Johnson. That was
Yeah.
her name.
Helen Johnson Salif. That's her name.
She was a figure that I admired a lot.
All right.
Yes.
How about you, Ben?
I think
The female one. The male was just a joke.
yeah, the female one.
Mhm.
Oh,
Your favorite
yeah,
female leader.
I think I am still thinking about.
Well, I know a few that have been great. You have
Yeah.
had the former Chancellor of Germany, Angela Merkel.
Mhm.
We currently have a female president in Mexico, right
Yes.
behind our
Borders, yeah.
backsides here.
Mhm.
We have Margaret Thatcher, who used to be so great. A lot of that's like one
The
of the
World
very
Bank-
first female leader that I
Yes.
heard about, and she was celebrated around the world.
Excuse you.
There is Hillary Clinton that also ran
Yes.
for president, and
Yeah.
prior to that,
Right.
she was a great Secretary of State.
Yeah.
We have
Queen
Madeleine
Elizabeth has been
Albright.
Yeah.
I think she used to be a Secretary of State too. And
Even
we can
Kamala,
go on and on
even
and on.
Kamala
And
Harris.
the
So,
president,
even
Kamala-
Kamala Harris.
also just
Yes,
was
the
just
World
ran.
Bank president too.
Yes.
I believe is a Nigerian lady.
I
Bank
forgot.
today.
Yes, I know the is it IMF or World Bank?
Yeah, the World Bank. Yeah, I forgot.
Yes.
Not monetary fund.
Yeah, I think she. Well, I don't know,
One of
but
them.
yes, that's one very great female leader that we've had.
Mhm.
So I think why we don't have as many female leaders like we will wish,
Mhm.
there have been some great ones.
Yeah.
And the reason
Of course, there are always
is to show that
exceptions.
women can be great leaders. So we should support them
Mhm.
to get them in this position.